Hello, farmers. It's River, and I'm back again for another episode. As if you watched the last episode, you'll know that we planned on weeding all of the fields. Still feel that it's a little bit hokey to actually weed the what do you call it? Weed the grass fields, but you can see I did it if we zoom in here. See, I missed a little tiny row there. It's a little hard to see in the grass field once it's partially grown, but I don't know. It's the kind of thing, I don't know that many farmers ever weed their hay fields. Let's just put it that way. I've never heard of such a thing. Not to say it doesn't exist, but I think generally you just plow it in and plant a new crop, and whatever you plant probably outgrows most of the weeds anyway. So either that, or I guess you could spray it if you had an infestation of a certain kind of weed, but whatever. Well, there we are. So these crops are now fully ready to go as far as fertilization goes. What's this? Barley, wheat, and canola. And we have nothing in the cornfield. Let's go over here, growth. So we're still just sitting there at the cultivated stage. And over here we have the potatoes, and they're doing pretty well. Everything's doing pretty well. Now the potatoes don't have the last layer of fertilization, but I just ran around and I did weed those. And actually potatoes certainly are something I could see you running some kind of a weeder, up and down your furrows, and I'm not sure 100% that it would get all of them, but I can see where it would be a benefit, some kind of mechanical weeder. I think a lot of people just spray stuff nowadays, something that, well, anyway, you get the idea. It's all science in a lot of cases. But let's stop talking randomly and take a look at this. We got white. We are over 50 degrees soil temperature, which means we could plant soybeans and corn. And since we wanted to plant corn up in field 34, we are good to go. I definitely want to try to get it in today, so that way we hit this growth at the end of the spring there. And the only other, there might be other things, but one other thing to add would be, I do want to get the grass up to that final growth stage, and I'm surprised when I fast forward it that it didn't. It didn't grow last time, so I'm hoping it grows. Maybe I'm just off in my thinking. It's more likely that I'm off in my thinking than the computer game isn't working right. Computer program isn't working right. All right, there's our corn planting machine. Let's get in here and get it done. I mentioned in the last video that I'm a constitutionalist. I believe firmly in the United States Constitution. Let's see. Right spot. Yep. We got corn selected. Good. And there's been a lot of debate. Now I think Florida passed the law where you can't buy a long rifle if you're under the age of 21, which apparently, because you can't find a handgun, basically means you can't buy a gun in Florida if you're under the age of 21. I really think as a country we need to come together and agree on whatever the age of consent is. I mean, if you could take people into the military, you can make a decision to join the Marine Corps at 17. That's a pretty serious decision if you ask me. I don't want to be in Fallujah, like... All right, you know what we didn't do? Talking politics. Crab walk. Kind of cheaty. Something would break if you ever did that in real life, trust me. But we do have to come to an agreement on the age. And here's the other thing I want to say about this whole debate. Unless you take away pretty much all of the guns, these nutsos are going to find a way to kill people. They're riding them down in vans in England. Timmy McVeigh built a fertilizer bomb and blew up half a building or close to it. There's just you're just not going to stop these people just because you put in an age limit restriction and stop a whole bunch of Americans from buying guns. It's just, there's so many of them out there, for one thing. If you tried to take them all away, you're going to start a revolution. You're going to start a civil war. So that's really just not an option. So I really don't understand why people don't try to think of things that are actually really, reasonable to solve the problem. To me, that's what mystifies me. I mean, okay, we don't want to start a civil war by taking away everybody's guns. And not that I think you could get the votes to do that anyway. And, what can we all agree on? Let's start there. I mean, I think increasing the security at these schools, I don't know, when I went into high school, anybody could have wandered into that high school. I mean, anyone. The doors were all wide open all day long. Now, it was a, quote, different time, but I don't, realistically speaking, there weren't any less guns back then, It's just something that most people just never dreamed of going into a school and shooting, Or if they did, maybe they got counseling back in those days. I think we just really have to look at, what drives these people to do this stuff, whether it's religion or, the jihadists, or if it's just, some psychological issues. What's getting these kids to think it's a good idea to go and do it to begin with? A lot of buildings, you have to have an ID. I worked in places, you had to have an ID badge. You didn't get in. It doesn't matter whether the guy was your best friend. If you didn't have an ID badge, you couldn't swipe the thing, and because you couldn't swipe the thing, he would get fired if he let you in there, I mean, I'm sure there's ways around it if you really tried hard, but for the most part, why did that kid ever have an ID? If they had ID badges going into that school, there'd been no way, or very little way, he could have got in if they had secured the building. It seems to make more sense to me. And being a proponent of the Second Amendment, I have friends who have concealed carry permits. I don't. When we go someplace and I know they have a gun, I feel more secure, I mean, I know they're decent people who would never do anything with it other than maybe protect my life. They're not crazy people in any way, shape, or form. Again, I feel better when they have it. And I'm not even talking about going into a bad neighborhood. Just the fact the guy has it makes me feel safer. It's like when there's police around. If I was in a high crime neighborhood and I saw police, I'd feel safer. Why? Because it's good guys with a gun. All right, well, that's enough of that. I'm sorry if I pissed anybody off, but you know what? I'm not really sorry if I pissed anybody off, because it's a right to defend myself and others. All right, so where are we going? We're going up here to Field 34. At least I didn't forget that or run into something while I was talking, right? And again, guns, all right, I can't help myself. But guns aside, let's just think of some issues that aren't going to piss off the other half of the country if we implement them. I'm sure there's some things we can do to make our schools and whatever other buildings at least a bit safer. All right, so here we are. So I don't know, I guess we'll start right up here. Well, go to this far corner over here. If I'm remembering correctly. Then we'll work our way back towards the entrance, which is good, because if I have to go refill, it's, I feel like it's a little more realistic to not cut across everything you just planted, not have to drive all the way around the outside of the field or something. All right, so let's turn on this GPS. This is pretty close to, hopefully we're pretty straight. Let's do plus. I'm not going to say plus 30. Put it in there in 34. It might still be the same exact course. Huh? Let's unfold this thing so we don't unfold it. Let's zoom ourselves out while we're at it. And that's it. Auto width 10. You know what? Let's back up a little bit. so it really doesn't make this much difference, but yeah, that looks. Let's go a little more. So I just want to see, make sure I can get. That's probably pretty good there. Just see what I did. I tried to get the line on the right to make sure I covered that where it turns back in there. We'll see. I probably screwed it up, but it doesn't make that much difference. Alright, so I'm going to do my headlands first, which is, again, not probably what you would do. Alright, we got corn selected. Always good to double check that. And let's get all moving. If you've been watching all the series, you'll know that I was a little hesitant to. A little bit hesitant to. Sorry, I'm concentrating. Fast forward things. I kind of watched some videos and advice on how not to get copyright strike. Yeah, not that I can get anything paid for anyway, but at least this way, you know, I think if I just stick with the music that's like on the YouTube thing, if you ever did videos, you'll know what I'm talking about. Yeah, look at that. That was like pro GPS setting up there, huh? Oh, except for, look at that. Why is the width? See that? This is working with 9, isn't it? We'll go confirm that in a second, but let's move this back over. There you go. Just back up. Oh yeah, see now we messed that. Oh no, we didn't mess that up. We're in good shape. You didn't see that. I forget what I was talking about, but I can't see. Anyway, I think I'll be good with the copyright striking thing. If I just stick with the music on YouTube. So if it sucks, sorry. At least it'll be something. But I guess the other bottom line is I will. Let me try a third time, right? I will record this whole thing with the intention of fast forwarding a lot of it. I'm going to try to keep the videos under a half hour, though it's been a source of consternation for me trying to know. Especially, I know in the past when I would fast forward things, it made it extremely difficult to try to figure out how much time is left if I just kept on recording. So I might have to pause at some point just to see and guesstimate how long the video will actually be. And this one I'm not going to make, am I? Oh yeah. Nice. Oh, I got there. Go too far. I think we're getting it. I know that was pretty ugly at times around this corner, but around this field, but certainly around that corner. Alright, well let me fast forward. I want to do another headland after this one, and then I'll go back and forth, and we'll have a bunch of corn, I hope. At least corn planted. Well, we were just short. Another, I don't know, about 50 seeds, and we would have had enough. But in any event, I think we got this done. One of the things I noticed, actually, when I was messing around with the test, I have a little, and I recommend if you guys do it, I mean, if you know how to cheat money in, or whatever, you can even just borrow money, however you do it. A lot of times I'll create a test map because, you know, I feel like, you know, if you go to the store, you're going to get a good advice from the people selling you a $300,000 harvester or something. You know, you're going to, heck, they might even let you try it out kind of thing. Sort of, I'm sure that depends, but in any event, I noticed we didn't have crop destruction, which really hasn't been a whole big, huge issue, but I just thought about, is that messing up our seed planting with the fact I did this header first? I have the 4 more realism module 01, something like that. Let's take a look here. We should be able to tell if we come over to growth. Yep. So no, it would be, you know, there should be lines and splotches in here if it was actually destroying the seed. So, but it does mean we'll have to be careful to use the care wear tire setup. And I did go and test this if we got a sprayer, and just sort of did a few different tests. I had planted field 40 in my test run, so it's a massive field. I decided that's just too big to start. But in any event, because you really almost need like a bigger harvester at that point. It just sort of, it's just too big. These will be a nice size fields. They're all kind of similar. Eventually, I think I'd like to take over field 1 and 14 just to sort of, yeah, I think it's pretty realistic that you would own this. Maybe even we buy field 8 just for the sake of it. You know, just to, I think that would be a pretty realistic plot for a farmer to own. How we got this, I guess we got this from our great uncle or something. Who knows? Anyway, it doesn't matter. All right, so there we go. We have, these are one stage. We got the corn planted, which is wonderful. Let's see it in the living color. Yep, there it is, corn. Very good. So now the question is, what do we do next, right? And so let's take a look at, I think we're just waiting. I think we're going to fast forward some time. As far as the soil composition, this needs to be weeded once it grows a stage. That'll be at 100%. So one of the questions is it worth it fertilizing the grass field? We'd have to get out there. At this point, you know, I think it's cheaty enough to use the weeder when the grass is the first growth stage, if you know what I mean. And maybe we'll even just stop doing that because it's bothering me. But nonetheless, so is it worth actually spraying, you know, these grass fields to get more grass? I personally really don't think it is. You know, I mean, it's just, I just don't. All right, so we'll see what we decide. But in any event, I don't think there's too much more we can do, right? I mean, we could get out there. Now, here's a question. I think it would be worth spraying the potatoes over here in field 9. But because I just weeded them, we need to wait. So pretty much I'd have to say that it sounds like we're waiting until tomorrow, because tomorrow is the first day of summer. So everything should grow another stage. And yeah, so let's do that. Let's go get this equipment back up to the farm. And then we'll get it cleaned up. Let's zoom in so these trees don't block my view. We'll get this thing cleaned up and parked. And then we'll go, I think the next thing to do will be, do we go buy a sprayer? I think we have the money. I did, like I said, the reason I went over to the test map in part was to test the harvester, and I was actually, when I stopped in the middle of harvesting that field 40, when I noticed, hey, wait a minute, I just drove the harvester on the crops and didn't do any destruction. Focus done. Talk begin. So, I think, yeah, after we get done this, we'll go get a sprayer. Well, we got plenty of time tomorrow. Look at the rain. Yeah, it's a bummer. Because if everything grows, that means the grass will be ready to go tomorrow. And if the grass is ready to go, it means we need to get our baler ready. And we should have plenty of time tomorrow to do that. And just why not cut out one more day of maintenance and age on the vehicles? Won't hurt. Since a day equals a good amount of real life time. Not sure if it makes that much difference. One thing I would say is that things do age, but it seems like an awful harsh penalty in this game for. But then again, if you realize crops grow in 2 days, yeah, I mean a tractor's sitting around for equivalent of weeks and eventually months. Does tend to add up. But, let's see if we can't get this. Oh, this guy doesn't fit. Or doesn't? No, he might fit. Let's see if we can't get him. Yeah, let's get him in right there. He's too long, isn't he? He'll never fit in there for the length. Did we try to get him in one of these buildings up here? Let's see, what do we have in here? Let's hop out real quick. Open this door up. Yeah, just have that cultivator. These two are sort of paired together. Let's see if we can't get him in here. Why is that? Oh, it must have drove past something. If you drive past one of the triggers, the door's open, which is nice, I guess, but hope we didn't wash it. Let's wash it. I'm not sure how much impact that has, but I'll wash everything. Now, that tractor was out in that field just as long as the thing. Look how clean the tractor is compared to how dirty this thing is. Hopefully, I guess Farm Sim 19's coming out. Looks like they're going to have some competition. I hope they up their game. I certainly don't root against the guys at Farm Sim. I was just looking today. I may try to do another series of games, or a game for another series, and trying to decide what. I thought, well, what's a game that I played? If you go into Steam, you can see, how long you've played each game. And I played 1,700 hours of Farm Sim 15. I've only played 600 hours of Farm Sim 17 because it's really just an extension of it. And then when they didn't do the soil mod, they didn't bring that over. Not that Farm Sim people did that, but when Decker didn't make the soil mod for this, and I think the only reason I'm playing it now is because of the Seasons mod. Just like that. Oh yeah, I'll go right in there. Get her straightened up. Very nice. Very good. All right. So let's turn this guy off. Might as well leave him right here. And we'll hop into this guy and go get a sprayer, right? Well, no, we're going to wait. All right, let's fast forward time. I'll show you what I do. It's not real exciting. It's only 7 in the morning, so we'll ramp the time up to 1:20 there and sit here and wait. So I think I'll just let me fast forward the fast forwarding until we get to nighttime. All right, I usually wait for the tint to change as I'm fast forwarding, and it means it's sunset, and we can hit Alt-N. Figured I'd show you guys this at least once. I don't know how much we'll do that, but so we can either choose to wake up at 4 in the morning or 6, and well, if we wake up at dawn, so we really don't want to get caught with the rain. It would really be nice if we had a radar, to know when it's going to rain. So let's go ahead and skip the night, and we'll just go to 6 a.m. Why not? All right, it's summertime. And let's take a look at our growth. Fertilize, didn't expect that to change. Go this way. Yep, this looks like it's, the middle, or not the middle, but the second growth. This is definitely the darkest green. And all of our grass turned orange. So that's wonderful. So there we go. So the question, by the way, if you don't know this, you can fertilize. Like we could spray the grass fields at this point and still get the bonus. But, I question whether it's worth it. We're going to have a lot of grass, I have a feeling. Like, we don't have any animals to use any of the grass at this moment. If down the road we decide to up that, we can always decide to spray it. I'm not planning on making a lot of money with the grass at this point. So at this moment, my only real thought would be towards, feeding the animals with the grass we have. So. But we are definitely geared towards getting the animals. I believe we have everything we have once we get these harvests in, which should be fairly soon. Let's take a look at the Alt-S. So we can't harvest anything until there. So we're going to probably have a good size fast forwarding happening again, because after we get done today, we'll have, the potatoes here will be fully fertilized. We'll have the grass we can take care of. And then after we do that, it's going to be, 2 or 3 days, 5 days before we're allowed to harvest the wheat, according to this. So I'm not sure what it does. Does it just prevent that? I think, I forget. I think it just prevents that last growth stage until it's here. Like it won't turn fully grown on the mini map or on the growth map. All right. Well, anyway, enough talking and not moving. So let's get up to the shop and we will purchase ourselves a sprayer. And while, as you guys can tell, if you've been watching, this is a game. I'm not totally caught up on being 100% realistic, because I just get frustrated because it's not 100% realistic no matter what you do. For that reason, I'm certainly willing to suspend reality, but I also don't. Some things get to be a bit too unrealistically cheaty. Like, in other words, we can go around and weed again, but don't necessarily feel that that's exactly fair, so to speak. I don't know. It's all created in my head, but do whatever you want. Don't let my judgment. If you weed every time, I guess that's fine. You're still putting in effort. I think a lot of times in video games, I feel like that's when I start feeling it's cheaty. It's, that's why I don't agree with like loot crates and stuff. It's not that I really care if you want to go spend $5 on loot crates. I don't play a lot of MMO or games that have loot crates in them. I'm not a first-person shooter guy, or even if I am, I haven't played many games that had loot crates and all that controversy. I don't play co-op or multiplayer games that often. So if you want to cheat in your own game, I cheat in money and go do a test map and all that stuff. You call that cheating. I don't think it is. I cheated in $2.5 million to set the game up the way I wanted. That's cheating. But I'm having fun. That's really why I'm doing this. I'm making videos too, which is why I'm doing this, but you get the idea. Just have fun with life, too uptight about. I mean, but at the same time, I mean, part of a lot of games, part of the thrill, so to speak, is the challenge, you know? Like, you challenge yourself. If you don't make it at least a little bit of a challenge, and some ways to do that is to make these stupid rules. Well, I would like to try this cone. This is like the old standard classic, and I don't think I've ever really used much from the cone pack. And I like, even though this one holds a little bit less, the other one holds 4,600. This is 36 meters. Ooh. So we'll cover some field. I mean, we're going to do field 9 in like a swath. Now, the problem is you end up wasting when you got a really big one. You know, it just becomes a waste if it's not a really big field. But let's just throw caution to the wind. We'll select it. No options. Do I want to purchase it? Sure, yes, why not? Okay. And there she is. Now let's turn the tractor back on. Probably really didn't need to turn it off, but it gets to be a habit if you play with that not auto turning on thing. All right, there we go. So I think we'll have no problem with horsepower. A little bit, I'm assuming that the fact that it carries less, I'm going to fill up right over here. That's right here anyway. It's going to change much. I think I have to drive right past it on our farm too. Probably could get some fuel while I'm here. Now I don't know if there's any price difference. If you, oh look, we're down under $1 million now. Oof. While we're waiting for this to fill up, I will show you the header, the harvester that I plan on getting. I don't think we're going to get it this episode. Well, I know we're not going to get it this episode, but I was thinking of getting this, again, stick with a, British map. Well, it's only $202,000. It's, not overly big, but our fields aren't huge. We can always upgrade down the road if we get the big fields, and it will hold, it will do a 25-meter header, and I think we can run, whatever corn header we want on it. And I think we'll be in good shape. And buying those two, the headers aren't cheap either. So buying those two things, the headers and the thing, will be another $400,000. We still have to get like a baler and some other stuff. Baler, and I want to get the automatic pickup wagon. You're probably talking another 100 or 150 there. Tedder, rake. But I think by the time we get all that stuff, we're not going to have a lot of money for animals. We'll probably be selling some crops, possibly to get our first animals going. There went $2 million, $2.5 million. But again, it's a good start. We'll have everything we need to farm. We didn't make it torturous for the purposes of doing a video. I found when I've done like hardcore, this is on normal mode, it certainly doesn't add much to the videos, and it makes making them a lot longer. And if you've never made a video or tried to make a series to be, I don't know how entertaining I am, but I try a little bit, it just becomes like really work. I mean, when you're spending umpteen more hours, you just, you got a real life. I've got a job, and it just becomes a lot of hours, because you also, keep in mind that you're processing these things. That takes time, and especially, when you see guys that have what I call production quality in their videos. I mean, at times they'll spend, I bet you, an hour or two just going through the video. If you hear me cough because I didn't watch the whole video back, but just think about if you had to watch a half-hour video back, it's going to take you another half hour just to look at the video, and then make an edit, double checks things, and if they have graphics, and that's not me complaining, just saying. Then you add hard mode in on top of it, it can just really be a lot of. So that's why you'll hear these guys say, that they try to avoid, you'll just see that they avoid hard mode, at least in some series, because I don't want to say it adds stress to the whole thing, but it just takes a lot more time. And I guess for the guys that are doing it full time, that's becomes just part of the job. I want to have fun. I mean, if YouTube, and I really don't count on YouTube. YouTube's just screwed all these guys that are making decent money. And then, I bet you at the end of the day, YouTube's profits don't go down one iota, But they use this as a big excuse to demonetize a lot of people. And the biggest issue with it is, YouTube and Google, which is kind of the same thing, sit there and try to claim that they're fair and impartial, and I just truly don't believe they are. You have jihadist videos on there, and yet you hear left and right that they're striking down or whatever they do, where they don't demonetizing and all that stuff, like conservatives videos. It's like, how can you justify having jihadist videos on there, not regular old conservative views? All right, here we are in the field. Let's talk farm, not politics. That is a big. Look at that thing. It's still unfolding. Good Lord. All right, so let's turn the GPS back on. Good Lord, that thing's huge. All right, let's go to field 9. Load this in. 30-foot-5. Let's see, what does this thing say? P. Garage. I think it said 34, right? We'll just go with whatever it said. Oh, 36. Okay, we'll just leave it where it's at. All right, where's it? Okay, we got an offset. That's part of the problem. Let's just straighten her out. Let's hit adjust again. See if that. Yep, 36. There we go. So we have 0.2 offset, so we'll just do a little 0 number there. And then let's move this guy all the way over. Good Lord, this thing's massive. All right. Yep, that'll clear that fence too, won't it? Yep. All right, so let's try to back the damn thing up. This thing's silly. I guess they have things like this. Think about that. That's like a 36 meters is, well over 100 feet, like 110 feet. More than that probably, but, just absolutely massive. Okay. Focus. All right, let's turn on the GPS, and it'll start heading towards that green line. Let's get ready with cruise control B. All right. Clearing that? Yeah, clearing the fence, no problem. Good Lord, this thing's huge. This, and the other thing to say, we got that tree coming up, don't we? We're going to have to get around that tree. Zoom out enough. I don't even know. The zoom may not go as far as this thing will be able to see. Yeah, the only problem with this is the potential for wastage is pretty huge, Swing this guy around. Now. I think I'm getting that corner. I can't even see it so far away. Good Lord. You know what? I would give you a huge thumbs up if you were capable of... I think I got that corner. I hope I did. I ain't going back for it if I didn't. If you could do this from the in-cab view, you are the man, I mean, without just wasted 10 tons of it, because you're like 4 miles away from the end of the boom. Look at that. This is a decent size, I would call it, farm sim field. That width worked out pretty well. I'm not, even though we were wasting some, I don't know that we could have done it a whole lot better as far as covering the thing. But no, if you can do this from the in-cab view accurately, there's almost something wrong with you. Like. You're inhuman in your ability to judge distance on a computer screen, no less. And this is, this piece of equipment is an argument for having a GPS. Alright, so let's get... Look at the coverage. Let's see, where does it start? Can we tell? Yeah, right here. See? Okay, right there. Okay, well, you guys get the picture. That 3 swipes of this field and it's just done. So that's nice. That's going to cover... I mean, obviously it's a little bit silly in this field. But if we ever do get big fields, and like I said, I've never used it before, so it's sort of nice to see it in action, I guess. It's just the size. What is that big? Like, think of the size of the plane that's like the wing of a Boeing 747 is like, I think 100 meters or something like that. Each wing, not the wingspan. Makes you realize how big that damn plane is. Yeah, I think we got it all. Let's just take a real quick look here. Oops, that's not the fertilizer. Yeah, we missed a little bit down over here. We missed a spot there. Good enough, though. No worse than we did in this field. All right, there we go. So what else? Just waiting for this to grow. I know this grew so we can weed it, right? All right, well, why don't I do the weeding of that off camera? This guy's folding up. I think we saw some weeding before. Maybe you didn't see weeding, but it's really not that exciting. I'll get that field weeded, and then when we next come back, I think, we could start doing grass too, so maybe we'll do the weeding first and then come back in the next episode and we'll buy some grass. And we won't buy grass, we will buy the harvester, the tedder, the windrower, the GPS off, and the baler and the pickup wagon. Alright, so I'll call it an episode here. No idea how long it is, but we got, I'm happy. We got fertilization on 3 levels on all of our crop fields. We got our grass fields up to 2 levels of fertilization, which, is pretty good enough. And then this guy is already at the 2nd level. And if we get over there and get him weeded, like I said, we'll get him up to the 3rd thing, and all of our crops will be ready to go, fully fertilized and plowed. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.